Nice guys always finish last, and that's why Mike McDaniel currently finds himself on the hot seat going into this season because his players have no respect for how nice he is. He's too soft, and we wonder why the Dolphins always fold during the second half of the season, why they can't win games in cold weather, why they continue to get their butts kicked every time they play the Buffalo Bills, and why this team struggles to win games against good teams because they lack physicality. And that's because Mike McDaniel isn't able to coach his players hard. Vic Fangio, when he left the Dolphins for the Philadelphia Eagles, he did it not just because the Eagles were a better opportunity for him, but because he knew that his coaching style didn't mesh well with what the Dolphins players were used to. Because look at how Mike McDaniel treats them. He treats them as if he's a fan instead of treating his players as if he's the coach. And that's why Vic Fangio's coaching philosophy didn't work in Miami because they couldn't be coached hard because Mike McDaniel is used to coaching them soft. When Mike McDaniel at the end of last season came out openly and said that guys were showing up late to the meetings and practices, and it didn't matter how much he fined them, they still would come late. That was because those guys had no respect for him. You can be a nice guy, but still be able to demand the respect of your players. Like Andy Reid, he's a nice head coach, but when he has to get in the guy's ass and he has to snap on somebody for missing an assignment or not knowing the play, he has no problem doing so. Same thing with Sean McVay. He's a well likable guy, but when it comes time to execute on the field, if you don't do your job, he will get on you. Same thing with Mike Tomlin. All of the best coaches in the league, to some capacity, are well liked by their players, not because they're super friendly, but because the coaches are able to get the best out of their players because they're able to come down on them at times when they need to be. When you have a locker room full of guys that are all kinds of different ages, from early 20s to mid 30s, you have to be able to get these guys to buy in to your culture. And the Miami Dolphins are not fully bought in under Mike McDaniel. Bradley Chubb last month came out and said that the team wasn't all in on winning. They weren't all in on trying to buy into Mike McDaniel. They tried to dip their feet in the pool and they didn't want to hop all in because there was no respect for him. And when you have no respect for your head coach, you get a guy like Tyreek Hill that feels like he can do whatever he wants. You get somebody like Jalen Ramsey that becomes so toxic in your locker room because he's not receptive to you as a coach, and other players are seeing that. And then those guys end up following the same path that Jalen Ramsey is, with him being a leader, not respecting you. How else do you feel your players are going to feel towards you? If the guy that you assign that captain badge on the side of their jersey to doesn't really view you as an authority figure, at least one that should be taken seriously, the rest of the team is going to view in that way as well, which is why Jalen Ramsey had to get traded. And with Mike McDaniel having his job on the line this year, there's a strong possibility that the Dolphins miss the playoffs again, and they also come in last place in the AFC East because the Jets are already bought into Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn put his foot down with Aaron Rodgers. That was the first thing that he did when he got to New York, to set the tone, to establish the culture that this is going to be no nonsense. We're going to be all business. Mike Vrabel going to the New England Patriots is all about structure. He's all about discipline. The Buffalo Bills have been all about structure ever since they first hired Sean McDermott years ago. The best teams in the NFL have the ability to be disciplined. And the Miami Dolphins are far from that. They're not disciplined. They're not physical. And guys look soft anytime they go up against good teams. Football is a sport that's rooted in physicality. You cannot win in the NFL by having this finesse mentality. And they say that the team embodies the personality of the coach. And the Miami Dolphins perfectly embody what Mike McDaniel is. They're soft. They struggle to establish themselves on the line of scrimmage, which is why the offensive line is always bad, why Tua constantly gets hurt, why they constantly have negative rushing plays behind the line of scrimmage, and why the defensive line doesn't play as good as what the talent they have on that side. When you have a coach that's soft, you end up having a soft team. Mike McDaniel is all about spreading the football out, trying to beat you with finesse, trying to beat you with speed, and try to punch your face in, trying to sucker punch you. And that's why the Miami Dolphins cannot win cold weather games and why they suck during the second half of the season. Because after Thanksgiving is when the real football season begins. That's when the pretenders separate themselves from the contenders. And something that contenders always have is that mean streak. They have that toughness. They have that grit. The Miami Dolphins don't have that under Mike McDaniel. And when Tua got injured last year, you saw this team completely fall apart because they didn't have that will to win, because they didn't have a coach that they were able to buy into. Mike Tomlin had so much success with backup quarterbacks because his team is fully bought into him. But when Tua went down, the rest of the Dolphins season went down with it. And with Mike McDaniel being an offensive-minded coach, he should be able to somewhat elevate whatever backup quarterback that he has on the roster, and he was unable to do so. Not just has Mike McDaniel been exposed for being an overly nice guy, but his scheme is starting to be exposed. The way that these good teams play the Miami Dolphins, that's why they're unable to have a lot of success on offense when they go up against the Buffalo Bills, because coaches have Mike McDaniel figured out, and the rest of his team has him figured out as well, that this is a guy that I can do whatever on. He's a guy who's not going to hold me accountable in film. I can miss the assignment. I can take plays off, and he's not going to do anything about it because he's too soft and he can't handle confrontations. And this may seem like I'm getting a little bit personal, but when you watch the Dolphins play, they perfectly embody the personality of Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel is one of those guys that's meant to be a good coordinator, but as a head coach, he just doesn't have what's necessary. He isn't mean enough to be a leader of men. Brian Flores was the complete opposite. He was too mean. He OD'd with holding guys accountable and trying to show tough love to the point where he destroyed the confidence of the guy that he invested a first-round pick into. You have to have a balance. You have to know when to be hard on guys and when to be able to uplift guys, when to be friendly. Sean McVay does it perfectly well. And even Sean McVay has had some moments when he's had to be cutthroat, where he really likes a guy, but he still has to get rid of him for the betterment of the team. Mike McDaniel doesn't have to respect up his players because he's too nice, and that's why nice guys always finish last, and that's why the Dolphins run the risk of finishing last in the AFC East this year, missing the playoffs again, and Mike McDaniel ended up getting the pink slip when this season is over.